Alright folks, what's going on? Welcome to the live stream, the first stream of the week, the Tuesday live stream. How's everybody feeling? What's going on? Where y'all tuning in from? It's going to be a vibe tonight. Let me tell you something. I'm going to be talking about a lot of stuff that needs to be said tonight. I want to eat healthy. Where do I start? We're going to get deep tonight. Don Ann, what's going on? Big shout out to you tuning in from Raleigh. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the roses. Much appreciated. And the mate tea. Michigan. Big shout out to Michigan. Let me tell you something. I got an extra cold bowl of fruit tonight. Big shout out to Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to the stream. Tonight I'm going to be talking about tonight I'm going to be talking about fat loss, but talking about it from a different angle. In particular, my strategies when it comes to things like sustainable weight loss and reversing illnesses and things of this nature is largely predicated on three different things, right? Number one, we've got gut health and the gut microbiome, rebuilding that. And then number two, we got improving blood flow, right? And then number three, well, improving blood flow and the health of your vascular system. And then number three, we got alkalizing the body and balancing the pH level. Those are the three things that I focus on, right? So in particular, tonight we're going to be talking about oxygen, right? And improving oxygenation in order to increase fat loss involves all three of these things. But in particular, when you really narrow down to it, alkalizing the body is essential to oxygen absorption, right? And these two things go hand in hand. And it's almost kind of like a chicken and egg thing, whereas the alkalizing of the body increases oxygen absorption, but it was also the result of increased oxygen absorption, right? Interestingly enough. And then on top of that, we've got improving blood flow, right? Making sure that the vascular system dilates efficiently, right? So that you get more blood flow in general. You get more of a volume of blood flow, right? And of course, that volume of blood flow requires an increase in sustaining of an adequate level of blood plasma. And then we get into the production of red blood cells, so we can have an optimal amount of healthy red blood cells, right? And that gets into, things like anemia, usually when it comes to dietary anemia, and people will mistakenly do things like take iron supplements, which is probably not the greatest of ideas, right? So we're going to get into all of that tonight. Let me catch up with y'all in these comments. Finally caught alive. What's going on? Welcome. Big shout out to you tuning in from Rhode Island. Big shout out to my folks tuning in from Georgia. My lives are always calming. I try to. We got a lot of stress in our lives. And what's interesting too? Watching my live, it'd be very interesting if you have a blood sugar monitor or a blood pressure monitor. What I want you to do is take a look. As you're watching the stream, check in on your blood pressure, check in on your blood sugar. You're going to see some interesting numbers, right? You might see some more favorable numbers, right? Because as you reduce stress, that in turn drops blood sugar levels, right? Because if you're stressed, which a lot of time for people, stress elevates blood sugar. The reason for that is because an increase in cortisol causes an increase in blood sugar, right? Or an increase in stress causes vascular constriction, right? Which can then translate into higher levels of cortisol and blood sugar, etc. Because you have more stress, your body will utilize more blood sugar in order to counteract the negative side effects of stress, right? So there's all of these different hormonal dynamics that come into play, and a lot of it is a result of cortisol, stress hormones in general, right? So we're going to get into all of that tonight. Would I recommend supplementing magnesium? I don't recommend a whole lot of supplements, but supplementing with magnesium can be extremely beneficial, especially for weight loss, right? And I'm going to dive into that a little bit as to why. So let's start with the beginning. Rule number one. So, well, first of all, let me back up, okay? So, back up, zooming out. We are fires. If your fire goes out, you die. And this is kind of the personification of when we say human beings are thermogenic creatures. And for the most part, that's true. If your actual body temperature drops low enough, you die. Right? So, for example, hypothermia. So your body will do things in order to maintain a certain level of heat. If your temperature drops too low, your cells will vibrate and shiver to create mechanical thermogenesis, right, or mechanical energy, which converts into heat. But in order to do that, that requires oxygen. So you'll actually breathe more and you'll move more. And this is a means of your body forcing you to create mechanical energy so that you can actually inhale and take in more oxygen. Okay. So we're fires. And so generally what happens is when your metabolism drops, so does your fire. If your metabolism drops too low, your fire gets low, you get sick, you start developing chronic illnesses, and eventually you pass away, right? So it's important to keep our fire lit. Your fire can be your health, your happiness, your motivation, your ambition, your spiritual power. All of these things kind of factor into your fire. Now, you can crank up your fire with things like exercise, but exercise requires all types of other resources, minerals, vitamins, amino acids, right? Things of this nature. And then another way to crank up your fire is the consumption of food. Your food is like firewood. You throw something on the fire to keep it going. When you're trying to start a fire, you use friction, some type of mechanical energy, and then you blow on it. You see some smoke and that thing starts to come up, right? And the blowing on it and the friction pretty much resembles exercise, right? The creating of thermogenic energy is done. It's similar to a campfire as it is in your body. So if you wanted to know, hey, how does exercise increase fat burn? Well, the way that that's done is because you're basically increasing oxygen intake and producing mechanical energy that then converts into thermogenesis, right? So when we talk about calories, well, calories is a measure of thermogenic energy. So when we say the term eating calories, how many calories should I consume? The truth is you don't consume calories at all, right? When you eat a food, the label may say 120 calories, but the caloric value of that food isn't necessarily 120 calories because you don't burn 100% of anything you eat, right? So let's say you eat a food and that serving of food is 7 grams of fiber. 1 gram of fiber technically is 2 calories, right? It takes 2 caloric units of thermogenic energy in order to burn through a gram of fiber. But the thing is, your body does not burn fiber for energy. Your body doesn't really use it for energy. Instead, it goes through your digestive tract and it sits in your lower gut and then ferments and feeds your gut bacteria. So 7 grams of fiber converts into 14 calories that your body never actually uses to feed thermogenic energy. And you know, whatever food you eat, you don't burn 100% of it anyway. This is the reason why you have fecal matter in the first place. When you burn something, the byproduct of something being burnt, right, is a gas. So you've got oxygen, and the oxygen and the thermogenic energy will eat through a particular material and then produce carbon dioxide, right? Fun fact, when you burn fat inside your body, that oxygen is then used to burn through fat, and then the carbon dioxide that you exhale is the byproduct of fat burn, right? So if you want to know how fat leaves your body, that's how it leaves your body in the form of carbon dioxide. right? So the reason why this is important is because one of the biggest parts to fat burn, or the biggest parts of fat burn, is being able to throw something highly flammable on the fire. And something highly flammable is going to be something like carbohydrates. So like fruit, for example, this honeydew and cantaloupe, right? Your body will burn through this real quick. And the beautiful part about it is that the fire inside your body works in a very different way, right? Because normally, if you throw water on a fire, it puts the fire out. But the fire in your body doesn't really work this way. In fact, you actually have to be hydrated in order to keep your fire going. It's almost like a liquid fire, if you will. I don't want to get too semantic or too complicated here. So, going to oxygen, and this is going to make a lot more sense when I actually talk about this, of why blood flow now comes into place. We talk about the dynamics of oxygen. You can't burn anything without oxygen, right? And so we talk about oxygen absorption, but then the only way your body absorbs oxygen is through your blood. Your blood is largely made up of water, right? So your blood is made up largely of water, and then you have red blood cells and white blood cells, right? And your blood is like a transportation system that your blood cells flow through and other nutrients, right? Oxygen is absorbed into your red blood cells. In order for that absorption to happen, you need an adequate level of hydration. So if I'm eating a bowl of fruit that's like 80% water, well, I'm getting plenty of hydration. So to improve oxygen absorption, what do you need? You need things like vitamin C, check. Potassium, check. Magnesium, check. Iron, check. Copper, check. B vitamins, check. Right? So this is a blood building meal. This is the oxygen absorption meal. See, people talk about, oh, well, you know, it's too much sugar in fruit and make you gain weight. No, people say that they don't understand how fat burn actually works. It's not the sugar that's the problem. Now, if I take dry sugar, some kind of processed candy, some dry processed candy, and I eat that, that's more likely to contribute to weight gain. Because it doesn't have the vitamin C, it doesn't have the water, it doesn't have the magnesium, it doesn't have the copper, it doesn't have the potassium, it doesn't have all those other elements. So the water in this and the potassium in this is going to feed towards building my blood plasma and the production of new red blood cells. Just eating a sugary candy is not going to do that because it doesn't have the micronutrients and the water content that the fruit does. So when people have these crude ways of looking at food, right, you run into problems. Sugar consumption in and of itself doesn't necessarily inhibit fat burn. Your body's going to burn fat either way. Of course, there's varying degrees depending on the circumstances. But the most important thing is not focusing on glucose or carbohydrate consumption, it's oxygen absorption. Because the more oxygen absorption you take in, or the more oxygen you take in, the more fat you burn, period. Right? And that's the number one rule that's important to understand. So that's pretty much covered out the way, right? I'll give an example of increasing oxygen intake through water-rich foods, magnesium-rich foods, vitamin C-rich foods, potassium-rich foods, right? All as a means of improving blood flow, because all this improves blood flow. If you eat a bowl like this and then you check your blood pressure will be much more stable. Your blood pressure will be much more closer to that 120/80, so to speak. It'll be much better numbers of your blood pressure, because this acts as a vasodilator, right? And this also helps to regulate how your heart actually contracts and pumps blood. Not only does it regulate and improve the dilation throughout your vascular system, but it also affects the nervous system and how it engages with your heart when it comes to establishing the rhythm at which your heart pumps. It does both. Whenever you want to improve the infrastructure, the cardiovascular infrastructure of your heart, you need to have foods that both address your vascular system functionality and your heart itself in connection to your nervous system signaling. And your nervous system signaling is largely connected to your brain chemistry, which means if your brain chemistry is off, your heart rhythm will be off, and then your vascular system contraction and dilation will be off. It creates this cascading effect. This is why stress is so closely associated to things like high blood pressure and diabetes, for example, particularly hypertension, what we call high blood pressure. Right. And we can pivot a little bit to things like exercise. So people ask me, how do I lose more weight with exercise? What's the best type of exercise to do? It smells good. You have to think about what you're using the exercise for. Because each type of exercise you do improves a specific thing. I'll give you an example. We'll say cardio. Low intensity cardio, high intensity cardio. Which one is best? Well, which one is best for what? You say, well, fat loss. Well, the one that's best for fat loss, or burning fat period, is going to be low intensity cardio, like walking. Something that doesn't require a lot of effort. Why? If maximizing oxygen intake is the thing that increases fat burn, well, what happens when you're doing an intense exercise where you're out of breath? If you're out of breath, you can't really, you're out of breath literally, which is why you're breathing so hard, because you don't really have the oxygen because you're out of breath. Well, you ain't really going to be burning much fat there because you're barely breathing. You're out of breath. You're out of oxygen. Your oxygen is depleted. Right? So if you're running hard, you're out of breath, you're breathing super hard, you're breathing like that because you're out of oxygen. And if you're out of oxygen, this is the opposite of maximizing oxygen uptake. You're out of it. This is what lack of oxygen looks like, struggling to breathe. If you're walking, that's how you optimize oxygen intake, because you're walking just enough to increase oxygen absorption, but you're not increasing it to the point where you're out of oxygen, to the point where it's anaerobic, right? So you have aerobic and then you have anaerobic. Aerobic means more oxygen. Anaerobic means out of oxygen, no oxygen, right? So if I'm sprinting and I'm running as fast as I possibly can for 9 seconds, I'm not really just going to be breathing like crazy, right? I might take a deep breath and then run and then exhale towards the end. So walking would actually be the most ideal form of exercise to burn the most amount of fat while doing your cardio. Now here's where the nuance kicks in. Oh, so what I guess so I don't have to sprint or run or do any type of intense exercise. Well, no, you don't have to. But there is a benefit to doing that. What's the benefit? Anaerobic exercises causes your body to respond by developing more mitochondria. Mitochondria is the energy factories of your cells. So in all of your cells there's something called mitochondria. Mitochondria basically takes glucose and converts it into available energy. Right? This energy that we call adenosine triphosphate, ATP, right? And so your cells will break down glucose and convert that into this available energy to use. And the more mitochondria you have, the more ATP you have. And this ATP then gets stored inside your muscle tissues so that it can produce contractions, tension, resistance, even when there's a lack of oxygen. It's stored fuel that your body can better use. And so your body will adapt by getting better at performing with a lack of oxygen. Right? So you do this intense exercise, it's all anaerobic, but when you stop and you catch your breath, there's going to be this back end response where your heart rate is still going to be elevated, which means your oxygen intake is going to be elevated. And as you catch your breath when you stop exercising, your oxygen intake will increase after the workout is done, which means your metabolic rate and oxygen intake will be elevated long after you work out. So you'll have a higher rate of fat burn after the workout is done. So there's the benefit to that. So then you say, well, what about resistance training? Resistance training does the same thing as the high intensity cardio, right? But it does something else. Resistance training trains your nervous system, and in your nervous system sends all of these signals, electricity all over your body to stimulate muscular contractions and tension, which elevates your metabolism, right? Raises your heart rate and increases oxygen absorption, and then pulls all of this blood flow into your muscle tissue, which drives more oxygen into the muscle and lights your nervous system up like a Christmas tree, right? What happens is your body responds to this by creating new cells, new bone mass, new, like stronger tendons, stronger ligaments, stronger muscle tissue, thicker, more dense muscle tissue. And the more muscle you have, the more metabolically active tissue you have, which means that your rate of fat burn is going to be a lot higher at rest, because you have way more metabolically active body mass. Because all of the cells inside your muscle tissue are metabolically active. So the more muscles you have, the more muscle mass you have, the more caloric burn you'll have in a day. It increases your threshold. You burn more, right? Your caloric burn is going to be a lot higher. And if your caloric burn is a lot higher, that means you can eat a lot more food, and your heart rate will be a lot more elevated until a certain point. So like, for example, my resting heart rate is like a 52. My heart doesn't really work that hard throughout the day. When I'm at rest, my heart doesn't work that hard. But it doesn't need to, because my body is a lot more oxygen efficient, so it's a lot easier for me to burn body fat. Because my oxygen intake, even when it's elevated, my heart's not working that hard, which means I don't have that much stress. So my heart don't have to work that hard. But when I do eat, my food elevates my heart rate a little bit, and I get more oxygen intake, because my digestive system is now doing more work to metabolize food, and that's going to raise the amount of calories I eat. So let's say on a fasting day, right? On a fasting day, I actually burn less calories, way less calories. If I eat more, the more food I eat, the more calories I burn. So my caloric burn will be through the roof as I eat more food. So it's actually fairly difficult for me to put on body fat because of this. Because the more I eat, the more calories I burn. Right? So the only thing that happens is, as I eat more, fat burn increases. Because eating in and of itself is a fat burning activity. Your body's always burning fat all the time, just by as a byproduct. Because all of the fat cells in your body are metabolically active. Your fat cells aren't just like dormant and they don't do anything and they're shut off. That's not true at all. All of your fat cells are metabolically active, and your muscle tissue is also metabolically active. The only difference is fat cells are less active. They're less metabolically active. Right? But as you get more trained, as you train your nervous system, that starts to flip. So exercise trains your metabolism. And the more fit you get, the better you train your nervous system, and the more muscle mass you build, the more fat you burn at rest by default. And that's how exercise works to increase fat loss. But it all is largely dependent on oxygen intake, usage, and efficiency. So you can have a more active metabolic system and a lower resting heart rate. That's what metabolic efficiency looks like. So the tie-in here is, with a lot of people, what happens is the way that I get them to drop more body fat is we increase the amount of food they eat. Now, if you say, hey, the key to weight loss and burning fat is a calorie deficit, well, how is it that you're able to get people to lose more weight by having them eat more food? This is going to be confusing if you think that calories is a thing you consume. It is impossible to consume a calorie. You don't consume calories. Calories are a measure of thermogenic energy. You can't eat thermogenic energy. Now, when you eat, that increases oxygen intake. And if you increase oxygen intake, that's how you burn more fat. A fire, an open flame. If you take a fire and you take a glass like cylinder and you put it over the fire eventually goes out on its own. And so you may say, well, why is that? Well, because without oxygen, the fire just goes out. Because the fire feeds on oxygen. So now, if I eat food, if I'm putting food on the fire grows and then absorbs more oxygen. This is how you achieve more fat burn through eating more. This is why we can't view calories as a thing we consume. This is the thing that's messing with people. That's not actually how it works. It's not how thermogenesis works. A larger fire consumes more oxygen, and more oxygen consumption, more oxygen intake leads to more fat burn. The only time eating more makes you gain weight is when you're eating more of the wrong kinds of things. Right? Certain things burn better than others. I give you an example. If you put fruit under a high temperature, it'll cook over and dissipate real quick. But if you put something really fatty over a high temperature, it'll take a lot longer to burn. So what happens when you increase the amount of dietary fat you consume? Well, your body stores it first and then burns through it a lot slower than it would fruit. Right? So this big bowl of fruit, this really honestly is only like roughly 300 calories or so. But if you filled this bowl with a bunch of processed fruit, or a bunch of processed food, with no water, no fiber, and a bunch of fat, that's going to sit on my gut like a lead brick. And you can't burn lead. The standard American diet is like throwing a wet mop on a fire. If you eat too much of the foods that aren't flammable, it's like dumping a wet mop on the fire. It's like throwing a brick on the fire. These things don't burn easy. Right? It's like throwing sand on a fire. Something that's not really that flammable. So this looks like processed foods, for example, right? These processed Franken foods. So what burns better? Lentil pasta or lentils? Well, the answer, lentils, right? If fun fact, if you take like a McDonald's cheeseburger, if you take like the bun, the McDonald's bun, and you take a lighter and you turn the fire on from the lighter, and then you hold the fire underneath the bun doesn't burn. McDonald's cheese. You get a McDonald's slice of cheese and you're on the fire under it, it doesn't melt. You may brown it a little bit, but it's like plastic. It doesn't melt. There's videos like that. If you go on YouTube and you type in like trying to melt McDonald's cheese, and you see it doesn't melt. Cheese is supposed to melt and it doesn't. But if you have a fire and you dump a bunch of cheese on the fire, that will put the fire out. This is why people, they eat a whole bunch of dairy and gain a bunch of weight. Because dairy doesn't work well with your fire. It turns your fire down. So when I increase the amount of food people eat, I increase the food volume. I increase the amount of fruit. Fruit burns well. Now, in the beginning of this stream, I mentioned the 3 things that you need to optimize for in your diet. Blood flow, alkalizing the body, and your gut microbiome. So you got fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, right? Greens, legumes. These things are loaded with all types of fibers, digestive enzymes, etc. that are very good on your gut bacteria, right? Your gut microbiome loves this stuff, especially when there's all kinds of varieties. Yellow fruits, purple fruits, green fruits, darker green fruits, red fruits, orange fruits, right? Your peppers, your onions, your sweet potato, your butternut squashes, right? Your kiwis and your bananas and your grapes and all of this type of stuff. And all of this stuff goes through your digestive tract. You're getting all types of amino acids, enzymes, vitamins, minerals, all this type of stuff. And then the fiber, the prebiotics, ferment in your gut and feed your good gut bacteria. Your gut bacteria is like a symbiotic organism. They're living beings, and they're like little miniature versions of you, like little workers, right? Little factory workers, I like to describe them as. If your gut is like a factory, your gut bacteria are the workers. They're responsible for the manufacturing. They're responsible for the maintenance. They're responsible for security, your immune system, right? Your immune system, like the security guards of your body. But your body's immune system is largely in your gut, and the thing that operates it is your gut bacteria. The synthesis of hormones, right? There's a thing called the gut-brain axis, right? Which is pretty much your spinal cord. And it goes down to the root of your gut and it connects to the base of your skull and your brain. And your gut bacteria sends signals up to your brain, and then your brain sends signals down to your gut and back and forth, right? And this is how we get things like the sensation of hunger, the sensation of fullness, happiness, joy, right? This is the basis for our ambition, our motivation, sexual libido, all of these different types of things. This depends on the signaling between your gut-brain axis. So if I eat a bunch of foods that are rich in tryptophan, and that hits my gut bacteria will signal, oh, let's make some serotonin out of this. And then when there's more serotonin in my gut, there's a signal that's sent to my brain, hey, let's make some more melatonin, so that when it's time for bed at night, and the lights go out, and the eyes experience darkness, melatonin releases from the brain, and I go to sleep shortly after. All of this is signaling that is largely determined by your gut bacteria and your brain chemistry. And you need both to be synchronized. So, simple habits to improve weight loss. Religiously, walking at least an hour a day. Maybe you can't do an hour, go for 45 minutes. If you can't do 45 minutes, go for 30 minutes. Start with 15 minutes, right? You may be, 300 plus pounds or something like that. It may be very difficult to walk for any length of time, right? So walk for 15 minutes and then gradually increase to 20, and then 25, and then 30. And you gradually tack on the time. You can do 15 minutes a day, twice a day. You can do 15 minutes a day, 3 times a day. But get moving, get mobile, get them steps in. You do that religiously. And I've had people where they could barely walk for 15 minutes. It was difficult. They walked for 15 minutes, their heart rate being the 130s. And now they can walk for an hour straight and their heart rate is around like a 110, 105. Walking, right? People may say, well, I got injuries in my back, I got knee injury, whatever the case is. Get some resistance bands and work out in your chair, right? Check this out. I'm trying my best not to get distracted by the comment section tonight because I want to get through all this. You can grab a resistance band, right? And you can do work in your back muscles and all of this sitting right in your chair. You can do overhead presses with it and bicep curls and all of this. You could just do upper body exercises, right? Whatever you got to do, get them resistance bands. Do leg extensions under the chair, right? Sit on an exercise ball rather than a chair. You sit at your desk and sit on a big yoga ball and then rolling around on it and whatnot on the ball and bouncing up and down on the ball and have fun with it. You just do that throughout the day. And then go on 15 or 10-minute walk breaks throughout the day. Right? Grazing, eating 5 to 6 meals a day. People saying, what about fasting? Fasting is great. But the thing is, you got to prep yourself for that. You got to set yourself up for the fasting. If you have been under eating and you're lethargic and tired and feel miserable all the time, it's probably not a good idea to start fasting. You want to think abundance, right? You want to eat in abundance. Being hungry is stressful. And going to bed hungry is extra stressful. So if you're tremendously stressed and you undereat and now you're fasting, it's going to mess with your sleep quality big time, right? So what you want to do is you want to improve your brain chemistry by eating the right things and drinking the right herbal teas first. So speaking of things like herbal teas and whatnot, this gets us into herbs. This gets into micronutrients, carotenoids, right? Polyphenols, antioxidants. We got things like antioxidants. We got matcha. We got moringa powder. We got ginger, turmeric, gotu kola, right? Cinnamon, nutmeg. Different herbs and spices, thyme. Thyme not as in T-I-M-E, but T-H-Y-M-E, right? So a good habit to do, you wake up first thing in the morning, you drink some matcha tea. You get, as far as the matcha powder, you get a 1/4 teaspoon of matcha powder and you put it in your mug and then you pour some hot water in there, about 8 ounces of hot water, and you drink that first thing in the morning. Then you eat a few cups of watermelon, and you go on about getting your day started. That right there will improve your blood pressure and your blood sugar. Watermelon has an amino acid called citrulline in it. Citrulline is a precursor to arginine, which then increases nitric oxide in your body, and the nitric oxide dilates your vascular system. That increases oxygen intake. Matcha. Matcha is a green tea that has something called EGCG in it. And it stimulates and increases the metabolic activity in fat cells. Also picks up your heart rate a little bit more and encourages faster metabolism and an increase in oxygen intake. That's 2 for 2. Coconut yogurt. Let's say your second meal is a cup of coconut yogurt with some hemp seeds or some flax with a mix of blueberries and blackberries, strawberries, whatever kind of berries you want. You mix that in there and you have yourself a coconut yogurt bowl with mixed berries with that chia or hemp seeds in there, or chia, or whatever kind of seeds you want, you put in there. And in that kind of meal, you're getting in probiotics, right? You're getting in copper, you're getting in iron, you're getting EPA, right? Essential fatty acids, ALA, vitamin E. And then you're getting all of the enzymes and antioxidants from the berries. And that's the type of meal that will, number one, increase metabolic activity in your fat cells, right? This increases fat burn. It feeds your gut bacteria, and the more gut bacteria you have, the healthier of a gut you have. Your gut bacteria are metabolically active. So you have more metabolic activity in your gut, which will lead directly to the increased usage and burn of visceral fat. If you want to shrink your waist, fix your gut. I've had people lose all types of weight on the plans that I give them, and one thing they all have in common is they lose a lot of inches around the waist. It's very noticeable. Because chances are, right, if you're dealing with fat storage, you have a lot of body fat you're trying to get rid of, most of it is going to be around your midsection. Most of it is going to be, visceral fat that lies underneath your abdomen, is right on top of your organs. And your gut will clean that up when you reduce the toxicity in your body and build your gut bacteria. And then removing waste from your gut with increased fiber and a more active gut microbiome. So you'll remove waste faster, which means less free radicals in your bloodstream. Easier removal of waste means less inflammation, and inflammation blocks the neural pathways responsible for maintaining healthy fat metabolism. That's why if you're chronically inflamed, chances are you're struggling to lose weight. You reduce that inflammation, that clears up your body, your brain, and your gut to be able to correspond with each other. So you can burn fat correctly. One of the things that people tell me, they say, I'm really stressed, I don't sleep very well, and I'm tired and lethargic. And then I say, do you have skinny arms and legs and a big torso? And they're like, yeah. Stress. Because stress interrupts your fat metabolism. Building your gut health will cut right into that and fix that problem. Then let's say your third meal is a couple apples and a cup of grapes, some leafy green vegetables, and some pumpkin seed kernels. The pumpkin seed kernels are going to be rich in iron, they're going to be rich in magnesium and copper and selenium and chromium and zinc. Same as those hemp seeds and those chia seeds and those flax seeds. Right? The reason why I name those things is because those are going to be the things that build your red blood cells. So your red blood cells will be built not only from the probiotics in that coconut yogurt I was talking about, but also from the seeds, the chia seeds, the flax seeds, the hemp seeds, the pumpkin seed kernels. Because in order for your body to build red blood cells, your body needs iron, copper, your body needs vitamin C, your body needs zinc, these different types of things, right? So providing your body with all those micronutrients that's used to build red blood cells, that is how you improve oxygen intake as well. Those minerals also alkalize your body. Oxygen is alkalizing, carbon dioxide is acidic. Most waste products are acidic. And so when you have these minerals entering your body through your diet, and you're doing it very frequently throughout the day with these kinds of meals, guess what happens? You are alkalizing your body with your foods, and it's a zero-sum game. So alkaline pushes out the acid. So when I give people, like a raw vegan or a high raw vegan diet, they're like, man, this send me to the bathroom. That's right. Because you are putting all types of alkalizing resources into your body, which is pushing waste out. Using food as leverage. So then you get that fruit bowl with the apples. You got that apple pectin, which is really important for your heart health, regulating cholesterol, regulating excess calcium. Apple pectin has a digestive enzyme in it called CoQ10. Right? Apples have CoQ10, which is very important for vascular dilation, maintenance of your heart functionality, all that kind of stuff. They sell CoQ10 in the store as a supplement, but you can get it naturally from apples. You can get it naturally from a variety of different fruits. The carotenoids in your grapes dilate your vascular system, boost blood plasma, right? This is your body uses this stuff to create new red blood cells, reduce oxidation, cellular oxidation. Because when you're flooding your body with these antioxidants, they protect your cells from being destroyed. And if you have a bunch of cells being destroyed in your body, guess what? Those are cells, perfectly healthy cells, that are not going to be able to absorb oxygen and contribute to a healthy metabolism. And so if you have all types of free radicals and toxins floating around your body, breaking down and damaging and destroying cells, guess what that's going to do to your metabolism? And guess what that's going to do to your stress and inflammation levels? Food is a protection. Then let's say you have another fruit bowl, right, where you do a grapefruit and a few tangerines. You get all these citrus fruits. We all know about citrus and how citrus eats into stored fat. Citrus fruits, let me tell you something. Citrus fruits greatly boost fat oxidation. So let me tell you something. Citrus fruits will have that brown, hard to burn, stubborn fat on your love handles, for example, and that fupa. Citrus fruits will take that brown fat and convert it over to beige fat, and then convert it over to white fat. No, excuse me, I got that reversed. White fat is the hard stuff to burn. The more you oxidize it, then it goes from white to beige to brown. The brown fat is the easiest fat to burn. It's a little bit of a slip up on my part. The white fat is the least metabolically active. So that citrus fruit. Now let's say with that citrus fruit, you got about 4 to 6 Brazil nuts. And those Brazil nuts are high in selenium, zinc, chromium, copper, which are essential to your hormones, your sex hormones, right? Regulating your estrogen and testosterone, building red blood cells, right? Healthy liver function, supporting your immune system. Also the vitamin E that's in those Brazil nuts, right? So that was 4 meals so far that I talked about. Now let's say another meal you eat, it's avocado, it's baby spinach, It's diced onions, bell peppers, pumpkin seed kernels, pistachios, cashews. You put some nutritional yeast on there. You put some curry in there, some turmeric, some sea salt, right? You can blend aroma tomato and add that for some tomato sauce, right? Or you could do some coconut aminos over it, season it with some taco seasoning, paprika and whatnot in there, cumin. Don't sleep on cumin. Let me tell you something. Cumin is very good, or cumin, I should say. And that greatly contributes towards fat loss as well. Those spices, that's the meal. Like what I talked about with my taco salad, that right there is a big meal. It's really important for boosting your immune system, feeding your gut bacteria, and burning fat. That's meal number 5, isn't it? And then meal number 6 can be a couple mangoes, maybe a banana or two, a few peaches, a few kiwis, a few cups of pineapple, right before bed. Tryptophan-rich fruits, so you satiate your sweet tooth before bed. And let me tell you something, you eat fruits like that before bed, it'll greatly contribute towards sleep quality. You eat like that throughout your day, you'll see some tremendous benefit. And you don't even need to cook. All right, let me catch up with y'all on these comments. I see it moving. Tell me, as a diabetic, are the fruits going to shoot up my blood sugar? It could. It really depends on how diabetic you are. One thing I will tell you is that when you eat, the longer you eat like that, the better your blood sugar gets, and the more your insulin sensitivity improves. When it comes to reversing diabetes, like let's say type 2 diabetes, when it comes to reversing that, what you want to do is you don't want to avoid blood sugar spikes. What you want to do is you want to improve on your insulin sensitivity so those blood sugar spikes shrink over time. If you're really diabetic, I mean, you could just wake up in the morning and haven't eaten anything and your blood sugar would be up super high. Because it's not necessarily just about sugar. It's also in combination with stress and inflammation. So if you're eating foods that reduce your stress, you may not really get much of a blood sugar spike at all. It depends on how diabetic you are. But as you reduce your stress through constantly eating these fortifying foods, and what you can do is you can shrink the portion size, where each meal is about 250 to 300 calories at a time or so, let's say. And I say calories just in layman's terms, right? But basically, you eat these small meals at a time. So 6, so you go 1, and then 2.5 hours later, 2 hours, 3 hours later, you have 2, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours later, you have number 3, and then just eat, chipping away throughout the day. And if you do it more frequently, what happens is you're not having a huge meal. It's going to spike your blood sugar crazy high. It's going to take a long time to come down, right? So if it's a smaller meal, you get less of a spike, and then it'll come down a lot quicker. You eat another meal, it'll come up, and less of a spike and come down quicker. And so you have this, and then eventually you go from this to this. And then it trends down throughout the day. And then you wake up with lower blood sugar the next day. And so your numbers and your average improves over time. So what you want to do is you want to set a new trend. Reversing diabetes is a long game. There's no shortcuts to it, right? You can reverse type 2 diabetes in 2 months, 3 months, 4, 5 months, right? Something like that. You can reverse it in less than a year, right? I've had people who are extremely diabetic and they'll reverse it in like 6 months. I've had people who are not so diabetic and they end up reversing it in like a month and a half, 2 months. It really depends on the person. It depends on how long you've been on your medications. It depends on your other health conditions. It depends on how consistent you are with following the plan. It's determined by a lot of different things, right? So that's pretty much my answer to that. I love curry powder in my black beans. Yup, that's right. Let's see. What was meal number 5? I forgot. I think it was that taco salad with the avocado and whatnot. I put turmeric in my herbal teas every day. True. Cayenne pepper, that's another one. So yeah, when it comes to things like herbal teas, right? So one thing that's very good to do is let's say you drink ginger tea. So you get ginger powder and you put it in your milk, but you put a quarter teaspoon of ginger powder, right? And then you can put a quarter teaspoon of turmeric in the mug. Pour some hot water in there, about 8 ounces, and you can drink that twice a day. You can drink it, let's say, early afternoon, and then have it again before bed at night. Or before your last meal of the day. And then after your last meal of the day, you can have something like hibiscus tea, dandelion tea, or chai tea. Right? If you're doing, like, for example, my raw oat pudding, right? I like to put, like, 2 to 4 grams of cinnamon in it. So you put like a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon in it. And then you put cacao powder, which also helps to regulate blood sugar spikes. Right? So cinnamon has these polyphenols in it that help to regulate blood sugar spikes. And then cacao is a fermented cocoa that's high in magnesium, and magnesium helps to regulate blood sugar also. So when you have more of a magnesium and potassium rich diet, that helps to keep your blood sugar levels much better. So you're not all spiking all up in the 200s and 300s. So the micronutrients do matter. Potassium, magnesium, and manganese, right? And then, of course, chromium and zinc-rich foods are also important, right? So chromium and zinc, these are going to come from things like, let's say, chickpeas. They're going to come from pretty much all of your nuts and seeds, right? All of your nuts and seeds. Your chia seeds, your pumpkin seed kernels, they're going to come from your flax seeds. They're going to come from your pistachios. They're going to come from your walnuts. They're going to come from your almonds, your cashews, all that type of stuff, right? Your macadamia nuts, Brazil nuts. Soybeans, black beans, dark leafy greens, and things like that. Doctor said too much magnesium is not good for your heart. Well, too much of anything is not good for your heart. But I mean, if you're eating that way, you're not you're not getting too much. I think the only way you can get too much magnesium is if you're just getting carried away with magnesium supplementation. But that's not a thing you accidentally do. Magnesium, for the most part, is pretty water soluble. Let's get this live to 30K. True. Double tap the screen to like the stream. I dropped a lot of gems tonight, folks. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with all of these comments in here, but this is why it's important when you show up to the live stream, you show up at 8 o'clock, because let me tell you, I get going at 8 o'clock, and I pack it on. My endocrinologist is actually proud of my progress since I've gone vegan. True, Donanne, big shout out to you. Killing it. 5 months, down 43 pounds. You're almost like completely non-diabetic. I'd say give it another month and that'd be that. Right? Big deal. So major achievements, so definitely proud of you. Big shout out to you. If you need help, you're looking for coaching. As a matter of fact, put a 1 in the chat if you need help or looking for coaching or want to get on a call. Put a 1 in the chat if you need that. We got a couple 1s in here. Look at that. Look at the old 1s popping up. All right, so I am a high raw vegan nutritionist and fitness coach. I do this full time. What I do is I create personal diet plans and training plans for people with chronic health conditions, especially. I really specialize in reversing chronic health conditions. High blood pressure, diabetes, kidney disease, Hashimoto's, PCOS, leaky gut, shrinking fibroids, all of that type of stuff. You know, I've gotten people who they had PCOS and, you know, they were able to get their menstrual cycle back. Right? So, big things happening there. I've had people with severe food allergies where we reverse their food allergies. I actually got a testimonial that I'm going to upload to my YouTube channel where we have an interview about it. And basically within a matter of like, what, 12 weeks, she dropped 15 pounds, lost 4 inches on her waist, and no longer has food allergies. Right? So this stuff is phenomenal. So I'm definitely very passionate about it. If you go to my profile on TikTok, first of all, you should be following me definitely because I drop gems on here every Tuesdays and Thursdays on the live streams on TikTok. But as far as getting your own personal plan, you go to my profile and hit the link in my bio. Okay. And you can either book a call with me and we can talk one-on-one about your issue, and we can dive deep into the strategy on how to reverse that, how to improve on your issues and get you on the right track to your wellness and get off of needless medications. Okay. Or you can sign up for coaching, right? I usually tell people to sign up for the call first, book a call with me first, right? Get some answers and we'll talk, and then if you want to move forward, and we can do that. All right, so definitely go to my profile. So you can tap on my picture right up here, and then go to my profile, hit the link in my bio, and get started from there. Turnaround time is pretty quick. I usually have people's plans up and ready within a 24-hour period. And that's that. So we do calls, we get on a video chat on like Google Meet. I spent the last 20 years working out. Will I lose muscle if I switch to a fruitarian diet? Not necessarily. It depends on how you structure your diet and how much you eat, right? You know, you can actually gain muscle on a fruitarian diet, but it also depends. Are you eating enough? Are you training correctly? It's that kind of thing, right? I'm more of a high raw vegan, so fruit is a large part of the diet. But I like diversity, right? So getting in a variety of different food categories. So it'll probably be like one cooked meal a day, or one cooked meal every other day, right? Something along those lines. So we can get in, you know, the kamut, the quinoa, the chickpeas, the cabbage, things like this, right? But pretty much like most of the food, pretty much all of the food is raw, right? So fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds primarily. Can I eat oatmeal if I have diabetes? Yeah, you can. Absolutely. Your top two. Your top two is going to be steel cut oats and rolled oats. Instant oats, Not so much. Too processed. You gotta get some nice thick rolled oats. That's right, Donnie. We're in the rolled oats game. We are rolling in oaten. How much to book a call with you? $50. Now, if you book a call and you decide you want to sign up for coaching, the $50 will then carry over to the coaching. So pretty much you get a $50 discount. So it's like the call is free. But I used to do free consultation calls, but I had to stop because I was getting so many of them that people who were actually paid members were having difficulty locking down a time slot. So I'm like, okay, I can't be having all of these freebies congesting the schedule, and then actual like members, like paying members, are having a difficulty getting a time slot. So I had to cut that off, right? So the only people who really, plus people were actually signing up for consultations and coaching calls free of charge and then not showing up for the call. So that also contributed to, I'm like, all right, people are disrespecting my time. I'm showing up and they're not. So I'm like, okay. So I value my time way too much to have people repeatedly doing that. So those of you who are serious, right, you'll put skin in the game, because I'm putting skin in the game every day. I'm already doing these live streams and whatnot, putting out a ton of free information. So for those who are serious, definitely book the call. My time is definitely valuable. To be honest, I can't, if I continue to do free consultation calls, it comes at the expense of the people I'm coaching. That's why I can't do it anymore. I have people who they're scheduling, 1 and 2 coaching calls a week, and they're having difficulty getting a time slot because somebody's filling the time slot they want, and that person's don't have no skin in the game. It's disrespectful to my members, so I'm like, all right, we can't do that. Members got to get that first priority. Growing pains, folks, growing pains. Look at that, we hit 37.3K on this stream. There we go, folks. Double tap the screen to like the stream. Am I answering questions yet? I am. What's your question? Let's hear it. I have menopause issues, so it's caused me to gain weight a lot. Yeah. All right. So a large part of menopause is stress reduction. That's priority, right? So it's going to be stress reduction and improving gut health. Now, if you're through menopause, one of the best things that you can do is eat more frequently, those anti-stress meals, improve your sleep quality, in large part through things like meditation, sound therapy, like with the water and the meditation music in the background before bed. Cold showers, quick cold showers in the morning, warm showers at night. Walking. Okay, if you're dealing with menopause, one of the best things that you could do is more longer walks, especially if you're walking on a nice hiking trail where it's scenic. And then having more, and then having a raw / high raw plant-based diet. What's the best way to go raw / plant-based? Baby steps are all in. All in. I would say all in. You don't have to wean yourself off of junk food, right? It's not like it's like heroin or something. You're not going to have withdrawals. What's the best fruit to eat in the morning? I'm probably... One thing I really like in the morning that's a great fruit to eat in the morning is watermelon. That's like my top one, my top pick. Second one's probably going to be cantaloupe. Third is going to be honeydew, or those are like tied for second place. Mangoes. So mango's another good one, and pineapple. Right? So the fruit in the morning should be as watery as possible. Some nice watery fruit. How can I detox? Well, that's another thing that I'm going to talk about on another stream. Detoxing, you don't have to do a detox. Really what you have to do is adopt a diet that improves liver, kidney, and lymphatic health. Your body's is always trying to detox, but you have to have a diet that's conducive to detoxification. Do I do contrast therapy? What's contrast therapy? I might be learning something here on the stream tonight. Contrast therapy. That sounds interesting. I don't know what that is. Maybe I do it and I just didn't know I was doing it. Hot sauna and ice bath. Oh, do I do that? I don't know. I don't do that. It seems like a very exciting thing to do, though. I'll tell you that. You go in a sauna, you get all hot and stuff, and then you jump in an ice bath. Man, that's got to be a crazy feeling right there. Best way to fight junk food cravings? Food cravings. And this is probably another... I appreciate that, too, because I'm actually going to do a video on food cravings, but I'm going to do a live stream talking about food cravings. But in short, food... You don't really have many food cravings. You get like 3 of them. Sugar, salt, and crunchiness. Those are the 3 food cravings. When it comes to your food cravings, I would say to satiate them. But you satiate your food cravings with the best food choices you can. If I want food that's salty and crunchy, I'm probably going to eat roasted salted nuts. Sugar, well, I'm eating a ton of fruit for that. Also, a best way to protect to make it easier on yourself so you're not getting all types of food cravings is frequent eating. I had a friend tell me to start incorporating pumpkin seeds and sunflower seed kernels. Yeah, pumpkin seed kernels and sunflower seed kernels. Keyword with the kernels, right? Because the shell is the pumpkin seed shell is a nightmare. Okay, you gotta put a lot of work into cracking that thing open to get to the kernel. What are the benefits? Brain health, blood building, improving immune function, alkalizing the body. I don't know which one is the best benefit. I don't know if I can really say one benefit is more important than the other because they all heavily rely on each other. So I really don't know. How often is it good to have dark chocolate? You can have dark chocolate every day. You can have dark chocolate every day. All right, folks. That's my time for tonight. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'll be back on here Thursday evening, and I'll put a video up for Thursday of what the topic is going to be about. So 8 p.m. Eastern, I usually just do these from 8 p.m. Eastern to 9 p.m. Eastern. I went a little bit over tonight, but that's fine. But I'll be back on here Thursday. Folks who want to get on my schedule and have a call with me, it's a 60-minute call. We got a whole hour to dive deep, right? So write down your questions, have all your questions answered, because let me tell you something. If you think I went in depth with this live stream, the one-on-one coaching call, when you book a call with me, we go even deeper. And it's not diluted because everything that we talk about is going to be specific, tailored to you individually. All right. So that's pretty much my time, folks. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If I missed your questions, I do apologize. But definitely, if you want to get your questions answered, book a call. And I will catch y'all Thursday.